about where we've come, both on human rights and the issue of climate change, and how you see them related.
Well, I think that if we want to address climate change, we should look other places to have these meetings, more close to the people, more close to nature, and very far away from authoritarian regimes. That is key. Only if we are able to hear nature and hear the people, we're going to be able to solve this critical issue. The main question is, are we moving forward or are we moving backwards? And let me just put one fact on the table. We all have heard that the US and China have come to an agreement. And the US has said that they are going to reduce between 26 to 28% of greenhouse gas emissions by the year 2025, taking into account the levels of 2005. And they have presented this as something very important, a move forward. But you know how much they already pledged in Copenhagen 5 years ago? They pledged 30% by the year 2025. So in reality, instead of increasing the pledge of the US, they have decreased the pledge of the US in this agreement with China. So we are not having stronger pledges, commitments from developed countries now. And this is happening, I would say, not only in the case of China and the US, but with all countries. China is saying that they are going to peak their emissions only in 2030. That is too late. All scientists are saying that global emissions should peak this decade, means before 2020. And this is not going to happen because that agreement is saying that this will only take place in 2030. So this is where we are. In reality, we're not moving to a better agreement, more stronger than the Kyoto Protocol, with more teeth, with a strong compliance mechanism. We're moving to a more softer agreement, more voluntary, more based on pledges, and with no mechanism to enforce those pledges.
Let me ask you something. When you were the climate negotiator at the COP for Bolivia, there were other climate negotiators. This year, one of them is not here, Yeb Sanyo, who is the former chief negotiator for the Philippines. He is home in this typhoon-ravaged country of the Philippines. Bernarditas Miller, also a well-known Filipina climate negotiator, no longer represents the Philippines. She's there under the badge of Bolivia, your country. What happened? Many are saying, pointing the finger at the U.S. and other outside interests, saying they put pressure because they have become known so much as the voices of climate change. Yeb Sanyo breaking down last year, going on a fast so that there would be some kind of action.
Well, this is not the first time that this happens. During Copenhagen and the next meeting after Copenhagen, Bernardita was also kicked out of the Philippine delegation, and if I'm not wrong, she was under the delegation of Sudan,
which was head of the
G77. And the reason at that time was precisely because of the pressure that the US mainly and also Europe put in order to get rid of these negotiators that are not comfortable for their positions, because they want to show that things are moving forward, and these negotiators are showing, hey, come on, in reality we're moving backwards. Bernardita will, if you invite her, she will tell you, hey, they promised us $100 billion for developing countries that are not responsible of climate change, but that are suffering climate change by the year 2020. And now the reality is that there isn't those $100 billion at all, not even half of that. So this is why you're going to see, and we're going to see more of this, more pressure in order to get rid of those negotiators that can be uncomfortable for the proposals of the U.S. and also Europe.
Pablo Solón, what can you do outside in civilian society that you couldn't do here at the COP? And now that you have this perspective, if you were here, what you would do as a climate negotiator?
Well, I think this is a false reality. It's created to hide what is really happening in the government. So in reality, here you're not negotiating. Everything is being solved outside of the COP, in small meetings at very high level, and the final agreement is going to come from outside. I would say that after being here, I know that you spend a lot of time, you think that you're creating a change by changing a comma, changing a word, but in reality, that is not changing the agreement. I firmly believe that only if we have a very strong social mobilization, social pressure, like the one that we had in New York, 400,000 persons marching, that is
the People's Climate March.
The People's Climate March. Yeah, that is more important than what you can do lobbying here. What we need to do is not only have a march like in New York, the People's Climate March that says take action, but we have to be more concrete. What kind of action do we want? And the issue is that here we're discussing about greenhouse gas emissions, but we don't discuss here about extractive industries, about fossil fuel that has to be left under the soil. So how are you going to address climate change if you only discuss the issue of the temperature but not the issue of the fossil fuel?